but I had my whole life had it kind of slapped out of me,
Yeah.
no, no, we won't allow you to have any emotions.
Mm. As physically.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. My mother would go into emotional fits, and her slaps would be administered 4 at a time,
Mm.
usually. And the slaps were unpleasant, but they were full fist, and they were smack on. But it was her words,
Mm.
her words that she said to me as she,
Yeah.
yeah.
As we're sitting here talking, I'm thinking about the child that was playing by herself and still found that joy, that the emotions were left out, like the little girl that's like having just this joyful time by herself. And
Yes.
do you think that maybe Christ was with you that whole time in those moments?
Yeah, I know he was with me my whole entire life.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Rush Outrtrospective, a Mastering the Art of Living podcast. Long before Joanne Richardson had language for trauma, she had already learned to live beneath a lie. The lie did not arrive all at once. It formed quietly in childhood silence, in the absence of comfort, and in a feeling that needing love was unsafe. Over time, that lie followed her into her body, her relationships, her work, and even the rooms where she appeared strongest. Joanne would go on to spend more than 25 years in engineering, smart buildings, and executive leadership. She became an author, a speaker, a voice on trauma recovery, workplace integrity, faith, and identity. But success did not answer the oldest question: am I loved? Her books are called Virtue of Honor, Acquiring Truth, and Shatter and Scatter the Lies. Together, those titles give us the map for this conversation: the pursuit of truth, the dismantling of false identity, and the courage to live from something deeper than shame. This is not a conversation about everything Joanne survived. It is a conversation about what suffering taught her to believe, what truth required her to face, and what it means to master the art of living after pain has tried to name you. This is my conversation with Joanne Richardson. Joanne, it's a pleasure to have you on the Rush Outrtrospective, a Mastering the Art of Living. Such a awesome way for me to meet you with our mutual friend, Pastor Richard Brunson from Lighthouse Church in Louisville Lighthouse Church.
Louisville Lighthouse, yes.
Yes. Richard's such an amazing human being, and I have such much respect and admiration for the time we've known each other. And I would say he's the one that I would say one of the driving forces that inspired me to get out here and keep on podcasting, keep on doing me and doing me with Christ, Christ right next to me. And I'm so happy to have you here today.
I am so thrilled to be here. I love Pastor Bronson, and when I went into his office last week, I asked him for help. I just felt I needed to talk more about my book and more about my life, and he said, "I have just the person. You have to meet my friend Rush."
Oh, that's
So I've come here today, and I'll bring you both my books.
awesome.
Virtue of Honor, which is my memoir, even though I'm not dead yet, created a memoir, and it definitely covers my life, and I would imagine Act 3 is going to be very idyllic. But and then the second is a workbook to understand complex PTSD, to understand if you've had past trauma that you don't understand or put a name on it. I felt very strongly that since I was blind by knowing my own trauma, I needed to create something for others.
Yes, that's beautiful. That's amazing. Thank you so much. There's so much to talk about today. First, I want to do is when I did I always ask my guests this all the time, is when I was reading the cold opening, what thoughts or feelings went through your mind?
It's humorous, even though I was in my corporate life for over 30 years. I've only been retired the past few. I feel so far removed from the work that I did in engineering and technology. Even though I still consult occasionally on projects, I feel already very removed from the world that I used to live in, and it's relieving. But I do get I guess it's like, oh yeah, that was me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'm glad we could reminisce on those moments of your career being
Yeah, it was excellent.
score sheet, and that's amazing. I want to make sure I honor that.
Thank you.
Before we talk about specific events, I want to ask you. Oh wait, that's not. I'm sorry. I wanted to ask you the podcast is named the Rush Outrtrospective, Mastering the Art of Living podcast. What does the phrase "mastering the art of living" mean? Does that mean to you now, after everything you've lived through?
You know, it's a wonderful phrase and it's perspective. Had you asked me that when I was in my 40s, when I was making a very successful living and lived in $1 million house, fancy hotels, lots of respect, esteem, I mean, really felt I was at the top of the world. But what I realized is during that time, I was just mastering my image.
Hmm.
And for me, mastering the art of living is truly living authentically, truly living in your own truth, truly living under the rules and the beautiful abidement of Christ.
Hmm.
I've never found rules something I particularly enjoyed, but when I accepted Christ, to fall into the ease of his comfort, that a lot of people think is must nots, must have nots, and I think now understanding what peace and serenity actually are. Actually, mastering the art of living today is simply just being authentic, just simply holding to truth that you know.
That's beautiful. I listen to you talk about your faith, the faith in Christ, right? And it reminds me of a book um, that I read one time. It's called "The Barbarian Way,"
Okay.
and it talks about untamed faith.
Oh,
Talk to when I say untamed faith, what goes through your mind? Is that something that you're speaking to today?
yeah. I remember first reading in the Bible or hearing from Pastor John MacArthur about a remnant, a remnant. And I'm like, I'm a remnant. I want to be a remnant. I I feel the desire to be out there telling people it's not too late to change. It's not too late to change because I was one of those people that thought I didn't need to change. I was very blind. So, yeah, enthusiastically untamed for Christ, that would be pretty good for me. It my family has finally gotten over the fact that they think it's a phase. You know, the friends that were ever going to stay with me have long since stayed or departed because the phase just got stronger. So, untamed, I guess,
Yeah,
yes.
it can be intimidating to some people that you.
Yeah, I've never been judged more when I accepted Christ and told people that I accepted Christ than I was, and I had did many a things in my past I should have been highly judged for, and they were applauded.
No.
So it was definitely an opposite view for me.
Yeah, that's such a that alone could we could unpack that for days.
Yeah, we could. Yeah, we could.
I want to ask you before we talk about the specific events what did suffering teach you to believe about yourself?
My suffering was silent. I didn't have the ability to express my emotions. They were either maybe beat out of me or slapped out of me, talked down to. I was, from very young, I knew to be quiet, that my voice in any situation was not appreciated, not heard, and not wanted.
Mhm.
So when you're silenced, what you do is you learn how to participate. So what I really lost was my freedom.
Mm.
All those years of people pleasing, all those years of trying to atone to what someone else expected of me, wanted me to be, who they wanted me to be, look like, talk like. Yeah, it was just what I had lost, and I didn't realize it until accepting Christ again, is I just took back the freedoms that were given to me the day I was born.
Mm.
Yeah, I just so the suffering was all in my own heart because I just didn't know any other way. When you're raised and you're constantly told you're one thing and not the other, you just absolutely believe what you're told.
Yeah, you touched on first of all, like as I always say, I tell my guests, and I told you this before when the camera was running, everything I say people suffering is sacred. I see it as like a a vase, a very expensive vase that you've, that's been created by Christ and the journey that you're on. And it's like something fragile. It was, it's fragile,
Mhm.
but and we care for it and honor it. So I want to make sure if we touch on anything that you feel like this is not, maybe not the appropriate time, then that's okay. Then I understand.
Oh, absolutely. When I wrote my memoir, I was very intentional that I wasn't going to paint myself, um, I guess, in a good light. I was going to paint myself as honest and as truthfully
Mm,
as I was. And I was frankly a wretch.
mm,
And when you decide that you're going to share all your shame, something overcomes you, and it's actually the most humble you've ever been in your life. And you feel so light. It's like, here you go, you can have it all. And I did so in an attempt that no one could walk away from my book and think, oh, I'm much worse than she was.
mm. That's a very compelling statement. The part when when I asked you a question about what is suffering teach you, you mentioned some things that happened to you. Um, what people don't really understand, and I've listened to your documentary, and what people don't understand, can you give it some context of what that meant, what that means?
That you're not understood, that you're not wanted. Sorry.
Yeah, like the part where you were, it was beat out of you.
Oh, well, from the earliest that I can remember, I mean, even before I know I could probably walk or crawl, I knew that I was going to be rejected. I knew that I was too much. If I needed anything, it was I was always taught and really reinforced that I was a nuisance,
Mm,
that I wanted too much, I expected too much, that my needs were too much. But what also happens to a young child who doesn't understand the dysfunction that's happening in her life, she absorbs the dysfunction. So maybe an attempt for, not to be involved with an inquisitive child. I was constantly told to go away, to be quiet. And then you learn that your anger is not allowed, that your rage is not allowed. Being destructive was something that never came to my mind. So I turned it all inward. It must be me.
mm,
I must be what they're all telling me I am, that I'm just troublesome. I'm troublesome. But you quit asking your questions, quit asking why, quit being overly happy. I mean, who gets in trouble for being joyous?
yeah.
But I would find myself on the floor, for no reason at all.
Mm,
So what that does to a small child is you learn that emotions are not safe.
mm,
So no one is safe. So for me, I was a people pleaser. So I was, hyper aware, scanning the room, seeing how to enter the room, what kind of mood the room was in. I'm also highly empathetic. So I could really feel a room before I walked into it. And when you're that way and you walk into a room and you absolutely know, oh, it's Joanne.
mm,
So you begin to take that pain in, and you always wonder, what's wrong with me? It must be me.
mm,
And then as you get older, maybe your peers treat you the same way. Your siblings treat you the same way. Your teachers treat you like you're a nuisance and you don't even know them yet.
mm,
So you start going more and more into yourself and become, a true loner. Even people would describe me, oh, you were bubbly and you were always smiling. You're always so cute. You were always this and this and this. Well, that was how I performed.
mm.
And what it is a survival skill that I didn't even recognize or know until many years later that I was perfecting each and every day.
Wow. That's insane.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, the reason I say it's so insane, because when I opened the door to this to greet you, I just felt this radiance from you, I mean,
And
and I think this is a different kind of radiance, a God-given radiance, a transformative radiance, and
I
um,
I hope
felt that
so.
right away. I felt that right away, 100%. And I just want you to know that. So to hear that maybe in this space, like, and do you think that maybe at some point, like, people were intimidated by that kind of personality?
I've been in. People have been intimidated by me my whole entire life.
Mm,
Literally at the age of 5, a kindergarten teacher didn't like me because she didn't like the way I entered the room
mm,
and told my mother, I mean, it's just my whole life I have offset people. Instantly, I repel them or I bring them closer. There's been no in between my whole life, even through business. People might have put up with me, but it was instant, and I've always known where I stood within the first handshake.
wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm sitting here and you have me like, cause my wife is a jovial person,
Uh,
and you know a little bit of my background, well, I'm cut from a different
right?
cloth of that. And I'm just sitting here like, and this is amazing when you say God brings us together for a reason, because I always told you this podcasting teaches me something. It's teaching me
Yeah.
something right now, right this very second as I'm sitting here, I'm listening to you share the essence of who you are, and I'm actually thinking about my wife being that same way.
And I love that.
And it's kind of going, Rush, you gotta check up from the neck up when you get out get out of this podcast.
You
Oh
do.
yeah, and I'm gonna do it. I mean, it's something, I always say this is required. This is not required reading, it's required listening.
Yeah, I
And
know.
let me ask you a question. You've said you learned, and this I'll say this when I was curating y- questions for you, specifically, the, I read a statement that you had said, and it hit me. And it said you learned very young to stay out of the way.
Yes.
What kind of emotional life does that create inside a child?
It makes it a very isolated life because as a child, I felt I needed to be not seen and not heard, not just the other way around or not one or the other. So even as a child, I would play in the far corner of the house with a back turned to the world for hours on end, playing with Barbies or creative. Everything I've done in my life, I've always it created quite a loner. And the one thing that I wasn't a depressed, despondent young girl. I knew where to stay out of my way, but I've always had the capability within myself to keep myself busy, to keep my brain entertained. So even though the world was saying, you need to go in your corner and be quiet, I went in my corner and I had a great time,
Wow.
which upsets people.
Yeah.
They wanted to, oh, well, let's make her feel left out. And, the fact of the matter is, when you always feel left out, like, you don't feel left out. I mean, it's just,
Uh,
I mean, you want to create a boundary around me, maybe because I'm not your favorite person. But the fact of the matter is, I had walls so high around me, no one was getting in anyway.
wow.
That's it. When you're stripped of your emotions, it took me until I was 60 years old to realize that anger was actually a healthy emotion.
Mm,
Anger was something I was not allowed to exhibit. I had to push it down, turn it away. And then when I did exhibit it, I was told, oh, you're being overreactive. You're being too sensitive. I didn't realize the gaslighting that was coming at me to keep me exactly where I was in my place. And
mm,
boy, did that make me angry to learn that I didn't understand anger,
yeah.
can be healthy. Of course it's healthy.
Yeah.
But I had my whole life had it kind of slapped out of me,
Yeah.
No, no, we won't allow you to have any emotions.
Mm. That's physically.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mother would go into emotional fits and her slaps would be administered 4 at a time.
Mm,
Usually, and the slaps were unpleasant, but they were full fist and they were smack on. But it was her words,
mm,
her words that she said to me as she,
yeah.
yeah.
As we're sitting here talking, I'm thinking about the child that was playing by herself and still found that joy, the emotions were left out, like the little girl that's like having just this joyful time by herself. And
Yes.
do you think that maybe Christ was with you that whole time in those moments?
Yeah, I know he was with me my whole entire life.
Mm,
I I wasn't raised in the church at all. As I grew and matured, I became a Christmas, Easter type of gal. Bring my kids. I didn't have any basis besides if you would have asked me, "Are you a Christian?" I would have said yes. And if you would have been like my pastor now, "Hey, Joe, I don't really think you know the Spirit," I would have fought him tooth and nail, tell him arrogant and how blind I was. And then when I accepted Christ and understood how blind I was, that's where I think my excitement for Christ comes, my revere for him. Oh man, he saved me because I was in doom. People want to dance and say, "Oh, maybe you're half Christian and maybe you're still a sinner." And I absolutely know there's no difference. You either have the Holy Spirit in you performing through you because you've been elected and selected by Christ,
Mm,
or you don't.
mm,
And people don't like it that honest, but I absolutely, you know, he definitely had his eye on me, but I can tell you through my life, I walked past him about 7 times now that I have the perspective to look back
mm.
where he was with me all the time. So yeah, he was there,
Yeah,
but if you're going to continue, he's there for everyone.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, I can look back, the quarterback, oh yeah, now I remember he was talking to me then. But without actually hearing and knowing what his voice sounds like today,
Yeah.
I could have never, oh man, he was there. He was there.
Yeah.
But I also don't regret. So I know that when the Lord called me into his favor and offered me grace and mercy, that was the day and the time that was decided before I was even in my mother's womb.
Mm,
So I can't go back and, "Oh, I wish I would have been, uh, accepted Christ earlier," because he chose the day, which oddly enough is my birthday.
oh, wow. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
at age 48, to reach into me like a skillet and say, "You need to decide, and you need to decide now."
Mm,
And the answer was yes, and my life has never been the same. And I full projectile the minute I said yes.
wow. That's amazing. I think like, you're talking about, anger, like it was a negative thing too, right? I mean, that's what,
It just wasn't allowed.
yeah, yeah, it wasn't allowed. Only they could administer
Yeah, yeah.
frustration. Right?
It wasn't my right.
Yeah, that's but isn't that what God gives us, some the emotion of anger to like stand up against
A
justice and
Absolutely. It's kind of funny now as I think people probably think I'm angry now, because I'm like, no, no, this is my beliefs. I'm not going to stop talking about it. I'm not going to sugarcoat it to make you more comfortable. I'm not going to not say things because it might upset somebody. I'm like, no. I mean, people forget, and I know people don't like this, but Jesus did not come to bring peace, but he came to bring division and the sword.
mm,
And he came to bring that so people would come to him of free will.
mm,
Choose me, choose me.
yeah.
He didn't come to, everyone's like, oh, he's just so peaceful. Like, have you read? Have you read the Bible? Have you read the Old Testament? Because the same Jesus that's in the New Testament was in the Old Testament. It's just,
Yeah.
it's, for me, I don't find fear of, of the Lord
Mm,
where, because I guess I revere him so much, but
mm,
a lot of people, and I should have been deathly afraid
yeah.
how I was living.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he gives you the time and the place and any, at some point in your life, you like you found me in solitary confinement. He found you on your birthday. Where
Yeah,
were you? Where were you when that happened? Where were you on your birthday that day? Do you remember?
I remember perfectly. Yeah, I was in my childhood home on McDonald Street in Missoula, Montana, and had a series of events a couple days earlier outside my control in Las Vegas. And my friend Robin testified to me. And I accepted Christ into my heart.
Mm.
Next morning, she got up and I was headed home to Missoula and she handed me a Bible, first Bible I've ever had in my life. And I said, I don't even know where to start. She said, start in John. So I went home and started in John, and I knew the Lord was speaking to me. As sure as I am sitting here, heard his words come to me, and I ran to him. Got up the next morning, took my mother's hand, and said, Mom, I need you to know I accepted Christ last night.
Mm.
And my mother, in typical fashion, said, Well, you've been looking for something for quite some while.
Yeah.
But when it stuck, it's funny, the people that complained about my change, they would say, I just want the old Joanne back.
Yeah.
Like, you need to understand she's dead. You know, that one you knew is never coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one that was easily manipulated into believing whatever
The one who
people please it.
didn't know the Lord.
Yeah.
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 She's just, how do you unknow what you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you know the rebirth of your
Yeah.
life. There's a line also in your testimony that feels central. I had no one to tell.
Yeah.
What does that sentence still carry for you?
That sentence carries with me an ache of deep loneliness. Loneliness so deep that hollow doesn't even begin to describe it. When you have no one safe enough to share your testimony to, your truth to, your emotions to, for fear of being cast out or ridiculed or gossiped or shunned or laughed at. Um, it's real easy for me during that time when you have no one to speak to. And at that time, I didn't have Christ in my heart. I was just an empty vessel to get very low. But to me, those words personally invoke a lot of just epidemic loneliness
Hmm.
that I was feeling and darkness. I can't imagine today not having someone that I love enough that I could tell something horrible to.
Hmm.
But at the time I wrote that in my book, there was no one I could share that secret with.
Yeah. That hit me really hard when I had that one phrase. I was like, just hit me because
Yeah.
we shared a little bit with you, about my carrying my cards and keeping them close and no one trusts nobody and no
Yeah.
with your turmoil and your tragedy.
Right.
Um, is that why you're here today? Is you're here because of this particular way you felt? Like,
Yeah. I told Pastor, I said, I need to tell people that there's hope. And not just sound like that Pollyanna, oh, hey, life is good and I'm happy. No, like if you're breathing so hard or if you know what it's like to cry into that pillow all night long because you hurt so bad, there is another way. There is a way out. I can't give you that way out, but I can certainly point to finding faith, to 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 exploring something. And I was so naive and I was so arrogant and I was so bullish. I thought I had faith. I mean, that's how blind I was, and from all outside appearances. Oh, I mean, I was never going to say I'd pray for you or bless you because half the people who say it don't mean it anyway. But I mean, I was never one. I wasn't capable of speaking about the Lord because I knew nothing about him because one, I never dialed his phone number, never looked him up, never thought about him. He was like a Disneyland figure in my head. And when I realized how close I was to going into eternal damnation, not knowing him and really understanding that the Lord's Prayer, life on earth as it is in heaven.
mm,
And I had no life here. I mean,
mhm.
I had nothing here. So yeah, I'm here to, man, if you've ever thought anything about this whole Christ thing and you're thinking, I'm good. I don't want to talk about old memories. I don't want to talk about this old stuff. I don't want to understand anything about my life. I just want to move forward. Well, you can do both. You can understand your whole life and you can move forward with an understanding that's unworthy of your path. So that's my heart. It's just, and I was that 25-year-old woman, so unhappy in an abusive marriage that I was starving myself. I was that woman at 40, rocking and rolling and plane tickets everywhere, having, fancy steaks and feeling so empty at the end of the night that I went up and picked up a man that I didn't even want to know his name, played a game out of it.
Mm,
I was so empty at one point in my life that going shopping was the biggest drug on the face of the earth.
mm,
And boy, I would do it well.
mm.
And I would do it without humility. And I would do it probably quite snottily. And I look back on that person now and they just want to spit me out, and that's why I'm so thankful that the Lord took me in because I was, a self-addressed wretch.
Do you think, you said eternal damnation. Do you think that we're one bad decision away from living in eternal damnation?
Well, that would be if you refuse to accept Christ as your savior.
Mm,
Someone who has Christ as their savior, we are sure. The Bible says we're saved. Every billboard says we're saved. Every bumper sticker says we're saved. But unless you truly know that you have the Spirit dwelling within your heart, and you probably come out on a stage like this and say, "Yeah, thank God I'm saved by Christ." Yeah, maybe you could have a little more relaxation, but the Bible's clear. Even if you think that you are saved by Christ, even if you think that you are holding righteousness above others, you still would be judged for your works here on earth.
yeah.
I'm going to have a heck of an entry.
Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful. Um, you speak on trauma and you speak on complex PTSD as well.
Yeah.
How did shame begin to shape your identity before you could describe what trauma, you had the words to describe trauma and complex PTSD?
Um, you'll find this interesting, but I didn't feel shame. I didn't feel I held shame.
Mm,
In 2009, I was in a particularly low spot, and I went into a psychologist, and she probably saw I was just raveling all over the place. But she assigned me a note, a workbook to go home and write about my shame. And I still have that writing today. It's about one paragraph long, and it starts with the word shame. And it says, until this day, I hadn't even thought of the concept. The thought of shame holds no power over me. If I was to write anything today about shame, it would be all lies. That's what I wrote myself in 2009.
wow.
Yeah, I had confidence. I had confidence that was fueled by my own competitive nature. So I would compete against only myself. I mean, I didn't care if I was surrounded by beautiful women. I was going to be as beautiful as I could. If I was surrounded by Purdue, Yale boys working with, I was going to be the best in the room. Didn't matter. My shame was probably that I was shameless,
Mm,
and when I accepted Christ, that is probably the first time I really felt shame. And it was my understanding of what I had done to cause Christ so much pain. I put myself in the mans that were whipping him, and with every action that I called out aloud, that's what I did.
mm,
So my shame is what I caused him to endure.
mm,
But I sure didn't think I had any, and that's honest. No, I didn't.
mm. That's powerful.
Ah, it's a backwards way of looking at things.
Yeah, it's powerful. It also because the vision of Christ being,
Oh,
whipped and whipped and you contemplating where you how you can recognize
oh,
your own sin and your own defects of character, I guess, but sin and
I caused him a lot of pain.
yeah.
I really did.
So what did you do? You wrote you what how did it work out for you? Like how did you work it out?
I cried. I thanked, I got down and thanked him, thanked him. I mean, so grateful to give me grace. I was the least deserving. And the fact of the matter is I wasn't out looking for it. I wasn't out trying to go to church or trying to feel the spirit. I mean, I was not looking for him when he came after me with the skillet. He didn't give me a choice. It was time. I mean, he just said, "This is going to happen to you if you like it or not." And thank goodness. But when I accepted Christ, my thirst for the Bible became supernatural.
Yeah.
I mean, it was 9 hours a day I was reading. I could not quit read is the only thing that interests me to the point. It was 1 month after I accepted Christ, I got terminated at work. And I was like, oh man, but I knew that I had my Bible. And I was home for 8 months trying to find another job, but now I look back, I'm like, "Well, aren't you sneaky? You gave me all that time with you,
Yeah.
all that ti" and I've looked through different things, trials that I've gone through, and, the time that he's given me with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. When I was just saying that, I'm like, see, you don't have to be incarcerated to spend a long time with Christ, and you know what I mean? Like he put you in your home, and he said, we're gonna treat this as this tomb, and this is where
What?
your resurrection's gonna take
He
place
did
too.
one better. He literally knocked my right foot out. For 21 months, I was on disability. I couldn't walk.
Oh wow.
He literally and I was a global salesperson traveling around the globe.
Wow.
He literally said, "You're gonna take some time off."
Yeah.
And instead of I was terrified of the surgery that I had to have to regain my ability to walk, but I went into that, "All right, Lord," and he gave me that time with him.
Yeah.
And now I feel like we were almost on a little retreat, my Lord and I, during this horrible time in my life because I would not be swayed off of the word or learning or,
Mm.
he fulfilled me.
You got yeah.
My friends thought I was nuts, but that's okay.
That is so cool. That is so amazing. Like just that, I say I'll have more alone time with Christ than most people. And this was intentional for you too. You
Yeah.
had this was your what do you call it? Threshing place or wherever. It's like
Oh, yeah. Well, he didn't give me a choice.
yeah, yeah,
He didn't let me, once again, he didn't let me ease into it at all. He just,
yeah.
it's going to happen now.
That's cool. That's so cool. You've described you just described the body carrying what the voice couldn't say.
Mhm.
Um, how did pain show up in your body, your choices, or your need for control?
Pain, such as I was taking, it went beyond the physical pain but it became that pain was mixed with that isolation and the just knowing that you're not good enough, that so what you do is you try to overperform. For me, I was a people pleaser. So that pain, I pushed it down and tried to forget about it, but it would percolate when it must have been really bad for me to get my feelings hurt because by this time I was pretty armor coated. But when it would come up, I had headaches for years. And then later I discovered that I have severe fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia is often caused by um, hypersensitive, emotional fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. You can't stay on such a advanced all the time. So, I deal with that, but my pain came out really, I would say, in severe depressions that geared towards suicidal ideation.
Mm.
I can't even tell you how young I was when suicide ideation started coming into my mind.
Wow.
Like, well, if I don't have to be here. It was always to me a choice. It was, oh, I don't want to be here. This is it. And there's been a few times in my life that it has percolated to the point that consideration was done. And the last time, and it's really what saved me, is after my mother passed away, and I had a firm relationship with Christ. But what happened in that moment is all hope was gone for her ever loving or accepting me with her death.
Mm.
It wasn't that I was so sad for her death. I was sad that she was never going to love me. And and suicide came right back into my head. And this time, well, thank the Lord, I checked myself into a trauma recovery center for 35 days, full in, 100% going. And that's where I received my complex PTSD diagnosis. And during that time, being so fragile and so broken, I'm still faith-filled, but the whole world was just like coming down on me. And when I got the diagnosis, it was second to accepting Christ. It was one of the clearest moments of my life that I hadn't been imagining my whole life,
Mhm.
that I'd been treated like a second-class citizen by the people that were supposed to love me. In a flash of a moment, I understood what manipulation was, how I'd been manipulated, how I'd been gaslight, how I'd been maneuvered and programmed from before I could even, have a cognitive thought that I was worthless. It started
Mhm.
and it continued darn near my whole life. So I don't know if I answered your
Yeah,
question,
you answered
but
it. Yeah. Yeah, that's that's when I look at it, it's like, I think of emotionally, spiritually, psychologically malnourished.
yes, yeah. And I felt when I went in, it was Sabino Treatment Center in Tucson, Arizona, a wonderful treatment center for trauma. And when I went in, I called people, told people, "Hey, I'm going into this trauma center," and they're like, I was the last one. I think everyone would, what? I mean, what are you doing? And for the first time in those walls, I started breaking down because I was safe. I was cared for in a way that I'd never been really cared for. I mean, I'd been in corporate, and that's not the nicest place in the world. I mean, within the first 5 days, it was just like, "Is everyone this nice?" I mean, people, there were no agendas, and as I learned about complex PTSD and did a lot of breakdown with the therapists and to really understand the diagnosis, it's like my mind had become clear, and I recognized that the Lord, he knew he had my heart. He knows he had my soul. But he also had to clean up what I had been programmed in my mind to believe about myself.
Yeah.
So, it was his will that
Yeah.
that's where I went.
Wow, that's well, I think you're right. It's like so we have I'm listening and like, man, we have so much similarities in our story.
Don't we
And
always?
yeah, it's like, holy cow. I feel like remember I said your people wasn't me talking, it was listening, and I'm listening. I'm like, man, this is a reflection of there's some reflection of everything,
Yeah.
the malnourishment, it's like you feed,
Oh,
soulful things you need. And it's
but I didn't know.
yeah,
I didn't know I was starving.
you didn't know, yeah.
So I mean, but the shopping wouldn't fill up, and the shoes or the cars or the vacation or the big important job. I mean, everything that I went after, I took. I mean, I took and I took and I took and I took. But even after all the shopping and all the adventure and all the, you can't, oh, can't eat this one, you're still just as empty because that void could never be filled by worldly things.
Yeah.
So I feel like I was that wind-up duck. You know, you wind it up and it goes to the wall, it tips over, and what I kept running. That's how I did my whole life. I went from back and forth like a wind-up duck.
Yeah.
That's until I quit, you know?
Yeah. Let's talk about your book,
Sure.
Virtue of Honor, Acquiring the Truth. Um, your book is called, Virtue of Honor, Acquiring the Truth. What truth was the hardest for you to acquire?
Ah, that I had my freedom my whole life. My freedom of speech, my freedom of flair, my freedom of style, my freedom of to be who I am, and I didn't take it. I didn't take it. I portioned myself off. I made myself small, and then when I realized that making myself small might please others, but it wasn't. It certainly wasn't good for me, and making myself small was certainly not pleasing the Lord
Hmm.
at all. So that was one of the biggest truths is I had given up my freedom willfully for many years without knowing.
Wow.
That's what, yeah, pisses me off.
Yeah.
I know. I know because it's just like, oh my gosh. I mean, what did and I won't go back on what I said, but Lord, you waited 48 years of my life that I thought were, I mean, I never really knew I was abused, so I never was like, I was never a victim. Oh man, it's still not today. Like, no, I mean, I'm witness, but it's like, darn it. Maybe high school would have been so much easier had I would have known the Lord.
Yeah. Share more about what's in it, what's in this book, and a little bit more.
Well, I've lived a life kind of a rolling stone. So, for any good memoir, I started out with how I was created. What about me? Who am I? Going through being raised. I really talk about women in the workforce, especially going into corporate America. It was quite a fluke. I came out of Missoula, Montana. I'd been babysitting. I don't have a college degree. It was not conducive to the house I lived with or the husband I lived with at the time that I would better myself. So the fact I got my corporate career and was, I guess slinging the hash with the big boys, um, that was fantastic. But I just didn't know what I didn't know. So I wrote about corporate corruption. I was a whistleblower during during a pretty big time in about 2010. Um, I talk about the career, but I talk about what it's like to be treated as a woman in a male-dominated environment, and it's very rough. And I like I say, I tell my own stories. There's stories in my book that I can't even believe I told on myself. And you're probably thinking, why did you tell these stories? And the whole idea for the book is for people to understand where they may be falling down in grace, not knowing grace, or needing to reach for grace.
Mm.
So, the before and after in my book, you can't deny the difference. And like I said, I wrote the book because I want everyone to know the freedom of Christ and the absolute comfort, but two, to give people a voice. And maybe if they read this and think, "Oh my gosh, she can say these things and not have any shame and not feel bad and still talk about Christ, well, maybe I can too."
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a doozy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel it. I feel it for sure. Um, when you experience, one of the things in your book is it talks about experiencing betrayal in professional spaces, right?
Mhm.
Um, How did you reshape your understanding of integrity, honor, and the cost of telling the truth by being a whistleblower?
Well, what I saw going on was a blatant Ponzi scheme. And I recognized what was going on only after I'd been kept out of a meeting, you know. And then I heard what was going on. I made a few phone calls and confirmed what was going on, and told my company, "Yeah, listen, what we're doing is stealing. The client doesn't know it was a series of upcharges.
Hmm.
If the client doesn't know that these are being put on his bottom bill, we are stealing. We're not keeping, ourselves, square with the client." And they said, "Well, we're going to get around that, and that the fees are going to be added by the engineering team, so we're clean."
Hmm.
And I said, "No, no, no, we're not clean. We know that this is going on, and we also know our client does not know that the bill is being inflated." And it was hundreds and thousands that led to millions of dollars.
Wow.
And what I saw is the men, and they were all men, and there were no women, so they were all men leaders at the time, those who were willing to stand by and be silent for their own neck, or for their own prestige, or maybe for their own bonuses.
Hmm.
And for me, being a pure salesman, if I lied to my clients, I was never getting back in the door.
Yeah.
And I would not be complacent. I just said no. But what shocked me the most is the people that would sit on the sidelines and be quiet. So one of the questions, is it is it a lie to stay silent? And I believe it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By omission, right?
Yeah. And then as a female, I saw many times, I've been told many, you need to sit in the corner and not raise your hand and not speak the whole seminar.
Hmm.
I'm physically told that.
Yeah.
I've been told, "Oh, when your beauty and charm leave, you'll have to rely on your intelligence, and I don't see that in your game plan."
Hmm.
And I mean, literally,
Wow.
I mean,
It's crazy.
I got a executive vice president fired, because he on HR made him break, and he said, "You don't know what being a woman is." Like, okay. Because I wasn't passive and I wasn't quiet, and I
Hmm.
kept bringing him in to be,
Yeah.
spoken to. He
Yeah.
he wanted to know who I thought I was. Yeah.
State number one.
Yeah. So I'm writing 2 books, but the next one is a corporate one, and it's called "I'm Telling You This for Your Own Good," a corporate women's survival guide.
Mm.
Because only women hear that.
Yeah.
I bet you no one's ever told you, "I'm telling you this for your own good." Have they?
Yeah, they have to.
Have they? Okay. It's something that men tell women
Yeah.
very often.
Ironically, it was a female probation officer begging me to change my life.
Okay. All right. Was that,
Yeah.
that,
And
that was good.
and you know what my answer was? My answer was, you know who you're talking to?
I think I'm the toughest guy in the world.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Well, I was staring down some bad time.
Isn't that funny? Yeah.
Yeah, she was. And she was screaming at the top of it. She used some colorful language,
Yeah.
you know. And yeah, I was in a courthouse and she was just begging me,
You haven't forgotten her.
and I have not. Nope. Know exactly what she looks like in my head and in my eyes.
Yeah.
Yep. I wish I would have listened. I wish I'd have said, I don't know how. Like that's,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know how to listen.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be nice if the one thing I guess I realized is I just didn't know I had a voice.
Yeah.
When you're told you don't,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Was this during when you were dealing with corporate stuff? Was that part of is that what your faith journey was in play?
Yes, I got into a corporate career at age 38.
Yeah.
At 48, I accepted Christ, and it was funny because I was having a ball. Trust me, my 40s were a ball. When people say, "How much fun did you have?" It's crazy. Work fun. I mean, we were going everywhere, doing everything,
Yeah.
and so when I accepted Christ, my life changed. I mean, the materialistic. I mean, just Oh, that fell away. My lust and perversion, that was gone. I mean, that was probably one of the biggest shameful things I had. But
Mm.
the desire not being good enough, but that I still had that I need to speak. I need to tell everyone about Christ. So in the beginning of me accepting Christ, I was a wild man. I called all my clients. I mean, I didn't keep it quiet. Oh, no way. I told everyone on the airplanes. For the person who, for the first 20 years, had her helmet head on so no one would talk to her, suddenly, hey, found out two things. When you read your book, your Bible on a plane, people lean into you or go to the other way. There's no in between. But, what I did after I accepted Christ is I was still staying in the same fancy Marriott or Four Seasons or still traveling. So instead of eating alone, I've always gone to like the bar to eat. Even today, if I go in and have a quick bite, I don't sit at a table by myself. I go up to the bar. It's just road warrior
Yeah.
news. But men would approach me and start talking to me, and it's halfway in between, yada, yada, yada. How are you doing? I'd say, so where's your walk with Christ?
Mm.
I have made more men cry in a random hotel
Wow.
bar than I could.
Wow.
Yeah. So I kind of turned, my working in corporate into evangelism.
Yeah.
That's I just like, well, I mean, I'll let them know. I mean, all my emails, I remember one big company, I put scripture on my email and they tried to have me take it off. And I pulled 17 other emails that had, give a man a fish and this and that. And I like, you're going to make me take Joshua off of my email. You better talk to everyone. I mean, that's how strong I was. Like,
Yeah.
no, not doing it.
That's so cool.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, if I was at a bar and you asked me where's your relationship with Christ, I would be like, go. I'd be like, I mean,
It was
it's very,
fascinating because almost 9 out of 10 would look at me and say, "That's a really good question."
yeah,
And then the tears would come. And during that time, I heard more. I was a therapist to a lot of men who needed to talk.
yeah,
And it's funny because
I can understand.
once you're in that position, I mean, I used to go out and I guess pick up men out of the same, just and once you switch that you're talking to but once the men who approached me for their own reasons knew they were just getting conversation,
Yeah.
the conversations we would have was amazing.
Mm.
I mean, just telling me about their lives, and I collected more sincere hugs during that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
And team workers, I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, there's no one who,
yeah,
yeah.
that is so cool. At 48, you described accepting Christ and feeling loved in a way you never felt before.
Mhm.
What did that love confront in you?
Um, I read that twice, confront, and I'm like, what did it confront? And really, the answer is probably going to be so sad. But when I felt the love of Christ enter me, it was so overwhelming and so complete and so breathtaking. I knew I had never been loved in my life.
Mm.
And you got to remember, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, I was a wife, I'm a mother. And I still can tell you I've never been loved like Christ. I never knew the complete feeling to be loved at that level.
Mm.
It's a sad answer.
Yeah. It's crazy because I was on a podcast myself recently and I was explaining to she was asking me about, I guess we got into conversation about my mom and it was interesting because I had said my mom like blocked everybody out. Like my mom and dad divorced when they were 5 and I was 5, but she did never allow anybody to love her again. And I don't even remember their relationship because I was 5.
Right.
But I had never seen her in an intimate relationship with anybody.
Mhm.
And it just was so like going through a journey with my mom as being, living primary custody. It's like, I never got to see someone love her,
Yeah.
you know? And so
Yeah.
when I hear you say that, I can relate to what you're saying. It's like you can't see your mom being loved,
Yeah.
and you're a boy, and you're a young man, and you're growing up in a household with your mom. That can that that lack of love, or that lack of being vulnerable to accept love, like it's like it makes you. I thought, like you said, you know, love was unsafe, right?
Mhm.
And for me, it was like love was something you were destined to lose. It was not something you were ever going to keep.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And I never knew it. So I can, we're standing shoulder to shoulder with that. So
Yeah.
can see what you're talking about for sure.
Yeah. I just, it was the absolute warmth and the love that I'd never felt it, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
Okay. Your other book. Let's talk about your other book. Tell us a little bit about Shatter and Scatter the Lies.
Well, it's a workbook for anyone who's thought, do I have PTSD? Do I have trauma? Do I have childhood trauma? So in there, I discuss a lot of conversations. One of them is suicide, and I talk about how suicide, the shame of it. If you go to a church and say, "Hey, I've been thinking about suicide," oh, you need to pray more. You need to be stronger in spirit. I mean, well, you probably know this. Our veterans come home and they're shipped home. Hey, maybe they have an episode there. Hey, let's get them home where they can get some help, and then the help never comes.
Yeah.
Our VAs are definitely could do better, but they're told don't talk about suicide, don't let's not address it. And then they come home and people are so I maybe systematically trained not to mention suicide because if you do, was someone's going to think, oh, yeah, are you okay to be alone?
Yeah.
People overreact or underreact. They don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
But people are ending up losing their lives because they have no one to tell. They have no one that they believe will even listen to their witness and testimony.
Yeah.
So I take the shame out of it. Is like, hey, listen, that I believe the healthiest you could be is if you ever look at a buddy or a therapist and say, I'm really thinking I wouldn't want to wake up tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's when you are absolutely your healthiest, when you can verbalize it, when you could say it out loud.
Yeah.
But I take, I talk about anorexia. I talk about food dysphoria. I talk about abusive relationships, sexual rape, sexual pandering. There's really not much. This is kind of a dare if you want to.
Mm.
This is meant it after reading my book, this is a perfect parlay, but it's absolute is a standalone. My second workbook is coming out, and that's called When Your Children Cancel You and God Calls You to Heal Anyway.
Mm.
Because there's an epidemic today of adult children turning on their parents.
Mm.
And my perspective on that is if this is happening to you, the Lord is still in control.
Yeah.
And that space where you're standing in between the estrangement and wishing that it could go back and wishing that it knew you needed to go forward is that private place that the Lord has you, and not to wish that estrangement time away.
Yeah.
Because the Lord is doing his work on you. And who are we to say that he's not doing his work on the estranged child too?
Right.
So I think a lot of people want to hear that and cast again shame. Oh, what did you mothers and fathers do
Yeah.
for your children not to talk to you? Or what did those little brats do? Good for you. That's not the attitude. The attitude is, okay, Lord, what am I going to do with this time that you've given us? And that's to heal.
Yeah. Um, what was your father's role in your life?
Oh, he was wonderful. My father was wonderful. And granted, all us kids have a different view.
Yeah.
I was the last born in the family and the only girl. And he worked at the shop. He was a machinist, so I grew up in the machine shop with him. But on Sundays, I would read the paper. There was always time for me in his lap on one day a week,
Mm.
But my dad worked incredibly hard. He'd go to, work really before I got up for breakfast and come home for dinner and then go back and work at the machine shop. I mean, that was dad Dad worked, mom raised the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, but very good. When I talk about my father, it's always I've never met a man more intelligent or more moral than my father.
Yeah.
And when I looked at my clients, I related to them and gave them the respect that I gave my father. So,
I'm thinking about it now, it's like when you look back, um, and at your mom's passing, have you had time to reflect on her journey and what where she was in her life, like what was her?
yeah, it never occurred to me that my mother had trauma because she never acted like she had trauma.
Hmm,
You know,
yeah,
my mother was always exacting and direct, but now that I look back, especially since I learned about my trauma after she passed,
yeah,
is I see many trauma markers within her. And, you know, by the time she had passed her trauma on to me, I'd already acquired my own quirks and had ran with them.
mm,
I mean, I don't know if she was raised that she wasn't good enough or she couldn't speak or, I don't know but she definitely had trauma imposed on her. One of the things I'm very honest about in my book, there's no denying when I look back that during my young motherhood years, and well, I guess all the years, you don't undo trauma, that I more than likely gave my children a dose of childhood trauma
mm,
because I'm relating that to trauma. I'm living in an abusive household. I'm trying just to survive in that, and my only survival are trauma skills.
yeah,
So the acknowledgement of how generational trauma is passed down. And at this point, in my post traumatic growth, what I've done is I've stepped out of the loop. I'm no longer perpetuating, I guess, trauma anymore
yeah,
because I've learned to understand and, not that I don't, spring up and trigger. I've just finally have some tools that even recognize, oh man, I'm triggering. I mean, I didn't even know when that was happening.
yeah,
So somewhere in the line, someone in the family has to stand up and break the trend. Unfortunately, like I said, I wish I would have broken the trend at 20,
yeah,
not 60,
yeah,
but breaking the trauma leash also is for yourself
yeah,
because I'm not the same person I was before I understood complex trauma and post traumatic growth. So now I can look back on the things that I accepted really not that long ago, perhaps in my life, and thought, oh, Joanne, once you see, you can never unsee,
yeah.
you know?
That's beautiful. Like that's so amazing, to be the one that breaks the curse, the one that breaks the generational curse, or
Yeah.
even
Well, it is a generational curse
yeah,
for sure. I mean,
100%. Knowing that, in many ways, do you feel like you're living your life backwards? Like,
it, it's funny. The Lord's Prayer, life on heaven, or life on earth as it is in heaven. And to me, like, okay, Lord, I feel your love. I feel your pleasure. Okay, Lord, just let me work. Let me work for you. I mean, if you're going to let me do this in heaven, right here, I'm asking you now, let me do this now. Let me work for you now. So, I guess I argue with him a lot. Like, you said it, your oldest prayer, pray like this,
yeah,
on earth. Come on, man, let's go.
yeah,
And so yeah, I mean, just knowing Christ, a whole neat leash on life, but having the ability and to me, I had to step out of corporate. I couldn't feel that I could write my book and be in corporate. I couldn't. Have you ever heard the expression "one bag in"?
yes,
I
yeah,
couldn't be one bag in.
yeah,
The both legs had to be in the bag,
yeah,
and I couldn't. I couldn't find a crossroads until I said goodbye to one and opened the other.
yeah,
And that was an absolute leap of faith. Okay, Lord, I've never written a book. I'm going to write a book, and then I'm going to write a second book, and then, you're giving me these skills to ideas to, it's just like, all right, Lord, So yeah, I feel like I have something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the essence I get from you, It's like you're living your life like it's like, you're living your life like, okay, now this is the best
Oh yeah.
it's the best is yet to come.
I feel that way. I mean,
Yeah.
well, it's not like we can lose the war that we've already won,
That's exactly right. That's right.
and I know I teased you earlier, but the Lord didn't give us a voice of timidity. He gave us, one of power and of sound mind, and he expects us to use our voice, and he's clear about the lukewarm,
Yep.
I mean, at least I kind of laugh at I wasn't even stupid enough to be lukewarm. I mean, I didn't have anything,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so
I didn't even pretend.
yeah. That is so amazing. Like you're right. He wants us to use our voice and praise God and hallelujah that you're using your voice today,
Yeah.
like and we're living life forward and I always have a saying like God has already decided the last four chapters of my life, you know, and he's not asking me to choose, he's commanding me to do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Do you feel that way too?
I hope he has all the remaining chapters of my life,
And then
but I'm sure there's a few that he's gonna go, "Oh, yeah." Um, it so that's where I find my peace, because for the girl who never felt like she was chosen for anything,
yeah.
you know, I I I don't remember a birthday party. I don't re I no one's ever thrown me a surprise. I mean, I was always the giver, I don't ever feel like I was ever, chosen. And then when I understood the love of Christ is at his choosing,
Mm,
it wasn't just Joanne saying, "Yeah, okay, I'm gonna be a Christian today." I mean, a lot of people think, "Oh, you could just." No, the Lord chooses, and you answer to His calling. It's not of human making. It's no one's going to lay their hands on me and give me Christ. I mean, it's just so for me, when I was reading, through Romans, I mean, even reading through the Old Testament, reading through, when you realize that reading through John, that He chose you and He's had His eye on you since the beginning of time.
mm,
I mean, and then you pair that with the total belief that, the birds don't have a nest, and they're more beautiful than we could ever, and they're taken care of. Why would he not care for us?
yeah.
And when you truly, and and I guess some family members like, I'm worried for you. You're like, "No, like life is too good, or so. Like I'm just not going to worry,
Yeah.
about needless things. I'm not. He's he's already provided. The fact that out of all the people in the world, I could write this confession of my testimony. I loved it. Is like, okay. I mean, like I would be the least likely candidate that he would use, and I thought, well, but he did.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's
Amen.
yeah.
All right. Last question, I believe. Um, when people encounter your story, your books, and your life's work from years from now, people and your family, your kids, um, uh, what truth do you hope they carry forward about suffering, honor, faith, and mastering the art of living?
Well, that's a good question. I would hope that just the main testimony of the book would shine through. That even though you think you're at the end of your rope and you're a wretch and you're a thousand things about yourself that even other people don't know, that there's hope. So I would honestly, I wrote the book to inspire hope, to inspire people to know that my shame isn't that bad. And once again, that's why I wrote all mine out. I never wanted to give anyone, oh, well, she had it easy, I like, no, I mean, um, yeah, I just take joy in that someone could actually have that much honor and humility in themselves that they could expose all the shame,
Yeah.
because that's what you have to do if you're going to strive for a relationship with Christ. I mean, you can't go into a Christ-filled relationship with shame hanging, or it'd be one bag in, one bag out. You,
Yeah.
you can't do it.
Yeah.
You've got to go all in. So I get that would be it, and to understand maybe more about childhood trauma, and that it impacts your whole entire life. Even in my corporate career, my trauma being hyper vigilant and over prepared, I turned my pain into trauma, and my talent into trauma and pain into profit is what I did. I just
Yeah.
yeah.
He coped and
It was all survival.
survival. Yeah.
But then when you realize that you don't have to work on survival anymore,
Right.
and what I've found is the boundaries. People don't like people that change, and people do not like people that lay clear, factual boundaries that are consistent.
That's for sure.
Boundaries bother people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joanne, it's such a, oh, I want to ask you, if people want to get a hold of you, they want to get some coaching from you, where can they get a hold of you?
Absolutely. And go to virtueofhonor.com. That's my website. And you can directly hook me up there.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Joanna, Joanne, it's such a pleasure to have you on this podcast.
Thanks.
It's like this fire of, the firelight
Oh,
of who you are is it radiates from you, and
thanks.
it's powerful, and it's intentional, and you're laying new paths for other people to, light for other people to walk through, and super grateful for your time. Thank you for being on the podcast. Thank you to Richard Brunson
Yeah.
at Louisville Lighthouse, Pastor Richard Brunson. Thank you so much, Richard. I think we already know what we feel about each other, and I appreciate you recommending to Joanne to be on my podcast, and I'm grateful to be a brother and a brother in Christ with you. But thank you, Joanne. It's a pleasure
Thank
to
you.
have you on the Rush Outrtrospective.
Oh, thank you for having me, Rush. I
Yeah.
just loved it.
Awesome. All right, guys, that's it for the Rush Outrtrospective, a Mastering the Art of Living podcast. As I always say, have peace and light in you, and remember that the ocean refuses no river.
Community in motion. Every story that I hear teaches me the language of the soul, the language we all share. I balanced on a tightrope of ego, but now I walk the floor where connection becomes purpose, and purpose opens doors. No crown to win alone, no kingdom built in isolation. We thrive when we're united, that's our true elevation. So I lift my voice for the collective, for the ones who can't be heard. We rewrite the narrative with empathy as our word. Break the silence in the head, let the voices of the many speak. Our visions and with freedom. This is where